I love cave art. There's something raw, unfiltered, and almost rebellious about it, like the walls themselves are whispering secrets from tens of thousands of years ago. The lions of Chauvet leap across stone, frozen mid-pounce, muscles taut, eyes alive with an ancient ferocity. And then there are the strange symbols, spirals, grids, shapes that don't make sense to us, but meant everything to someone who lived 20,000, maybe 30,000 years ago. And the handprints. Oh, the handprints. Someone pressed their hand into wet ochre, leaving a mark that screams, "I was here. I existed." This isn't just art. It's a direct line into a human mind that walked this earth long before us. They're messages, not just images. They tell us what these people valued, what they feared, and what they survived. But here's the part that chills you to the bone. Not all of it is peaceful. Hidden among the majestic lions and bison are images of people, bleeding, impaled, captured in moments of raw, unmistakable violence. Scenes that make you wonder what kind of world would drive someone to paint death itself on a cave wall. Wait until you see what we uncover next, because this story doesn't start in France or Spain. It begins much earlier, far south, in caves that might hold the oldest secrets of human fear, ritual, and survival. These caves, they're more than stone and pigment. They're time machines. Step inside, and you're face to face with someone who lived 20,000 years ago, someone who wanted to communicate across millennia. Every line, every handprint, every shadow of a lion tells a story. Some images are breathtakingly simple, yet hauntingly profound. Lions mid-pounce, bison frozen in motion, deer grazing in perfect harmony, captured in detail that makes you wonder if these artists were the first real storytellers. And then there are the symbols we can't fully decode, spirals, grids, dots, mysterious shapes that hint at beliefs, warnings, or maybe rituals we'll never understand. And those handprints, they're impossible to ignore. Someone pressed their hand against the wall, and in that moment they were declaring, "I was here, I existed." It's a moment of raw humanity, and it connects us across tens of thousands of years. But not all the images are beautiful. Some are dark, violent, even terrifying. Figures pierced by spears, bodies sprawled in defeat. Scenes that suggest fear, conflict, and maybe revenge. The walls are whispering secrets about the human condition, how our ancestors saw the world, how they survived, and sometimes how they killed. This is where our journey begins, not just admiring the beauty of prehistoric art, but diving into the shadows behind it, because understanding the fear and violence captured in these caves tells us as much about humanity as the beauty does. Our story doesn't start in the famous caves of France or Spain. It begins much earlier, near the southern tip of Africa, at a place called Blombos Cave. Here, archaeologists uncovered something extraordinary, evidence that our ancestors were thinking abstractly tens of thousands of years before Europe even comes into play. Imagine this, pieces of ochre carefully engraved with crosshatch patterns dating back more than 70,000 years. Tiny shell beads probably strung into necklaces, bone tools used to mix pigments, even abalone shells that served as prehistoric paint containers. These weren't just random objects, they were early palettes, tools of creativity, evidence of a mind that could plan, imagine, and express. And here's the kicker, Homo sapiens weren't the only ones leaving these marks. In caves across Spain, La Pasiega, Monte Treviso, and Ardales, researchers discovered lines, dots, and shapes at least 64,000 years old. That's more than 20,000 years before modern humans even arrived in Europe. These marks were likely the work of Neanderthals. It's staggering when you think about it. The urge to create, to communicate through symbols, wasn't uniquely human. It was something deeper, something primal.
Shared. A spark flickering across species, across continents, a universal drive to leave a mark, to make sense of the world. And as that spark spread, It ignited a wave of artistic expression that would eventually light up the entire globe. As that creative spark spread, the world began to fill with images, first subtle, then breathtakingly vivid. In Spain, Neanderthals left their mark with red lines, dots, and abstract shapes. But this wasn't limited to Europe. Thousands of miles away, in Sulawesi, Indonesia, caves reveal hand stencils and depictions of pigs dating back 45,000 years. Over in Borneo, nearly as ancient, wild cattle grace limestone walls. And in Australia's Kimberley region, rock art stretches back 40,000 years. Across continents, one subject dominates these ancient canvases: animals. Reindeer, lions, rhinos, bison, mammoths, each painted with astonishing lifelike detail. These were not just illustrations, they were celebrations of life, depictions of survival, or maybe warnings etched into stone. And yet, humans themselves are rarely present. We naturally draw ourselves. Children sketch stick figures before they can even speak. So why, for tens of thousands of years, did Paleolithic artists avoid painting their own kind? When humans do appear, it's often in distress, bleeding, broken, dying. A shift in focus from animals to human mortality. And when humans actually turn against each other, the art takes on a new level of intensity. Some show actual battles, the painted figures clashing with spears, brutal and chaotic. Others are more intimate, single figures falling under a hail of arrows, capturing the lonely final moments of violence. These aren't simply records of death, they could tell stories of betrayal or revenge. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies give us a window into this world. One study of 21 mobile forager societies found that 55% of hominid killings were personal and emotional. 36% occurred within the same group, often between family or close kin, and only 15% involved separate communities. Most conflicts weren't about territory, they were about insults, status, or revenge. And these acts were rarely accidental, they were deliberate, remembered, and retold. Even with a sparse population, violence mattered, and the Paleolithic artists were witnesses, observers, and perhaps record-keepers of these deadly, highly charged personal moments. To make sense of Paleolithic violence, anthropologists often turn to modern hunter-gatherers. These societies, though separated by tens of thousands of years and geography, offer striking parallels. Across 21 mobile forager groups studied worldwide, lethal violence followed consistent patterns. Most killings were one-on-one, deeply personal and emotionally charged. Few were accidental, most were planned, deliberate, and remembered. Conflicts usually didn't involve territory, but revolved around social tensions, insults, jealousy, betrayal, or challenges to honor. Even within small groups, these disputes could escalate into deadly confrontations. Imagine a band of 20 people, heavily reliant on each other for survival, where a stolen resource or a slight insult could have life or death consequences. Every act carried meaning. Every fight had a story. Now, take that context back to the Paleolithic caves. The violent human depictions aren't just artistic choices. They could be memorials, warnings, or lessons. Perhaps they showed what happens to traitors, cowards, or rule breakers. Some may represent real events, others symbolic figures, and some may even be ceremonial or shamanistic. The point is clear: recording violence was purposeful, it mattered. And as we'll see next, sometimes this violence wasn't interpersonal, it was a deadly reminder that humans weren't always the hunters. Step into Lascaux Cave and the story shifts from literal violence to something far more mysterious. Deep within the shaft scene, a massive bison dominates the wall, its stomach torn open, intestines spilling in vivid, almost anatomical detail. In front of it, a human figure lies sprawled, limbs outstretched, head bird-like, as if wearing a mask or merging with another being. Nearby, a vertical staff topped with a bird hints at ritual, shamanistic practice, or maybe a failed hunt frozen in time. The artist captures not just death, but transformation, the delicate balance between hunter and hunted. At Hawks, The walls hold carved reliefs showing a human fleeing a charging bison or aurochs. Every line conveys motion, energy, and imminent danger. Scholars debate whether this is symbolic, a story of chase and consequence, or a literal recording of survival. Either way, the immediacy of the threat, the tension,